Imagine a world in the Edo period, an ambiguous ancient China, or 19th century England. We humans would be confused, curious, and slightly overwhelmed. Unless that universe was in historical fiction, a genre that is filled with structure, hierarchy, and long-lasting traditions. A formal attired utopia whose wardrobe errs on the side of whimsy that is adorned by bishonen and self-determined female characters. Isekai was the blueprint, reverse harem became the catalyst, and unless you actively used Google, you might never have known these series were indeed shoujo. But in all seriousness, finding newly released shoujo for newcomers can seem like swinging through vines in an overcrowded jungle. There is no straightforward path, specific genres that remain consistent each season, or all of the above. In the past several years, there's been a distinct appetite for shoujo content. There seems to be a hunger for it due to the lack of anime adaptations. But recently, that dilemma has finally changed. With the announcement of A Condition Called Love and A Sign of Affection receiving anime adaptations are fueling the so-called Renaissance allegations, which for us shoujo fans is synonymous with underrated anime. But there is a specific genre that escapes the underrated anime allegations: historical. And unsurprisingly, this underrated media discussion slowly gained traction on TikTok.
Now this manga is getting an anime. Melody, the magazine it was published in, it is now a completed series, describes it as a historical alteration science fiction. Shoujo does historical and science fiction genres so well. Meshing them together.
Historical shoujo are stories that are set in a certain time period for the female demographic. At least that's what I think it is. From Rose of Versailles to currently Oku the Inner Chambers and My Happy Marriage, these settings create a timeless paradox within the constraints of a certain era, whether that is the politically divided Kingdom of K or its contemporaries in the lustrous Kingdom of Clarinets. They all embody an environment of our protagonists embarking on a journey of self-exploration. At face value, storylines centering female characters proving their worth to society might seem too existential. However, in a world where girls and women have been relegated to perform domestic duties, female-led historical narratives seem revolutionary. It's a visible signifier of how social commentary embeds itself in fiction. It's a genre that you perhaps accidentally came upon, never knowing how caught up you are in its entanglements until it's too late. The kind of genre that is home to some incredibly beloved series that have shaped a generation, intentionally or otherwise. Haruka Beyond the Stream of Time has altered my brain chemistry, which for the uninitiated means this series is very interesting. We follow a young girl named Akane who gets transported to ancient Japan after hearing voices in an abandoned well near her school. Once in the world, Akane is asked to become the priestess of the dragon god, and is tasked to defend Heian-kyo from the impending threat of a demon group called the Oni clan. Her school friends Tenma and Shimon were also transported to Kyo to aid Akane on her venture. Through this progression, we encounter her 8 loyal guardians, who protect her from the eerie force known as Akuram, whose objective is to attain Akane's mystical power to rule Kyo. While the premise might sound like a gender reversal isekai where homegirl becomes an authority figure and a harem of boys protect her, what makes this series so intriguing is the protagonist-antagonist relationship. It's giving Basara energy with Sarasa and Shure, but the only twist is that they know they are each other's enemies and are still infatuated with one another. Or, to be more accurate, Akane has a slightly unrequited love for Akuram. The lore and visual landscape are heavily reminiscent of Fushigi Yugi. In fact, their art style is nearly identical. But I wish those same level of similarities was devoted to the anime, specifically the stakes. Anime Akane doesn't seem to have the same agency as her manga counterpart, because the threats often posed to her don't have lasting effects. And Akane's independence is interrupted by constantly needing to rely on her guardians during combat. While she does actively pursue her goals, they inevitably lead to putting herself in danger. Perhaps that's the appeal or beauty of the series. Akane's kind-hearted nature is what propels her guardians to protect her. The physical embodiment of this protection is Tenma, her dear friend and heartthrob who's initially skeptical of trusting the 8 guardians. When calamity strikes Akane, he always comes to her rescue, even if it seems hopeless. He has a younger sister named Ron who unfortunately for a short period fell into the hands of the Oni clan. Tenma is a relatively headstrong and territorial guy, but not in a possessive way. He's just a concerned friend. Given the series' overarching message, this rings true because regardless of your destiny, you must protect what you hold dear. Whether that's your sister, priestess, associate, friend, or a young man entering his senior year of college. Akuram, the main villain, is also a very intriguing character. As the most powerful leader of the Oni clan, he is the major obstacle Akane has to overcome. He's domineering, secretive, and cares deeply about achieving his aspirations, like many other villain archetypes. While Akuram's deception and deviance feel strained, the most authentic part came from his partial desire for revenge. Additionally, the mask Akuram sports hints at his ability to harness the magic of the Oni through it, making him all the more dangerous to Akane. He views humans as weak-minded due to their emotions clouding their judgments. In a way, he echoes the same sentiment that he is trying to run away from. Crying over his kinfolk's deaths will only continue the endless cycle of pain. In terms of promotion and other installments, Haruka was somewhat successful, but it's still genuinely surprising this series escaped avid anime viewers in terms of early 2000s isekai. When we picture shoujo isekai, Fushigi Yugi, Magic Knight Rayearth, and the 12 Kingdoms comes to mind, while the more obscure copies fade into the background. So maybe Haruka reaching the same height as Fushigi Yugi was too tall in order, but I still hope this series gets more exposure. Heading into 19th century England, we have Earl and Fairy, which follows a fairy doctor named Lydia Carleton who uses her unique talents to help fairies and humans coexist peacefully. One random day, however, Lydia encounters a dashing man named Edgar Ashenbert, who abducts her on a sea voyage to London to retrieve the legendary Sword of Marrow. Proclaiming himself as the Blue Knight Earl, Edgar gains Lydia's trust and offers assistance in gaining his stripped title and fabricated sense of honor. Along the way, we meet Edgar's loyal companions Raven and Ermine, and the bubbly feline-presenting fairy Nico, as they embark on their journey to uncover fairy secrets while escaping the looming ominous menace caused by Edgar's tragic past. While the story is short, it certainly is a wild ride. One minute, Edgar is making swooning moves to Lydia, and the next we learn that Edgar was shipped to America as a white slave. Prior to meeting Lydia, we learned that Edgar's family was of nobility, and because of their social status, they became a target. The organization that captured Edgar is revealed to be headed by a rudimentary, mysterious figure called the Prince, who ruthlessly dominates over his associates and minions and commit horrific acts towards their enemies. To add syrup to an already sticky situation, Edgar was groomed to be the prince's successor, and upon this realization, he, Raven, and Ermine flee the organization to attain a semblance of freedom. Initially, Edgar's driving goal was to get revenge on the prince for murdering his family, but after the Ashenbert's family banshee saves him despite losing her own life, Edgar embraces his duties as a Blue Knight Earl despite not possessing the ability to see fairies. His positive discernment of Lydia's supernatural abilities perseveres him to defeat the prince and fulfilling his mission that comes with his title, while also confronting his developing feelings for Lydia that are left ambiguous in the anime but are fully reciprocated in the manga. We are also introduced to other side characters such as Paul and Kelpie, who essentially serve as alternative love interests for Lydia while adding to fairy lore and politics. Kelpie, like Edgar, is dominant and assertive towards its advances to Lydia, while Paul feels secondary to the main plot, but remains active as Edgar's accomplice and was also a victim of the prince's maliciousness. The environment also feels contained and lived in, as the setting is distinctly British. From the ball, costumes, to the servant-master dynamic, scream Victorian-era madness. And the performances strike a chord which, in the most complimentary way, feel endearing. Lydia getting pushed into Edgar's problems, whether life-threatening or romantically, never ceases to make me laugh. Her reluctance to entertain Edgar's bold and literal request is the gift that keeps on giving. Lastly, we have what I would argue is the most under-discussed anime yet, Sanoko Monog, which is set in the fictional country of Sankoku, the kingdom of the color clouds. Our strong-willed female protagonist, Shode Hong, aspires to be a government official, despite societal norms discouraging women from pursuing such roles. Shode's father, who was once a prominent official, stumbled into poverty and debt, leading Shode to work as a low-ranking official in the imperial palace to support her family. Soon after, Shode is appointed to tutor the lazy and playboy-like prince Ryuki Shi, who has zero interest in politics and lives life without restraint. Despite the challenges posed by her new role, Shode takes on her duties with pride, using her resourcefulness to awaken Ryuki's leadership potential. As Shode becomes more involved in palace politics and government affairs, she navigates the harsh realities of systemic barriers, preconceived notions, and uneven power dynamics. Because of its genre's classification, she also catches the gaze of several influential and charismatic men who are drawn to her intelligence. All the while, Shode is seeking to uncover the mysteries surrounding her father's downfall and the larger Sankoku political landscape. Shode provides a poignant reflection on how systemic social structures should not hold someone back from their goals. The anime weaves this theme into the narrative of the Imperial Official Exam, an assessment that screens applicants based on what is needed in the Imperial Court. In an attempt to gain Shode's affection, Ryuki grants women admission to take the exam, which of course sparks controversy amongst the government. Initially, we see people side-eyeing Shode wanting to take the exam, but she ignores them because their assumptions don't define her. Seiden, her loyal friend, and Ryuki's half-brother, watches her every step of the way, ensuring her safety and providing emotional support through this rigorous process. Moments of internal doubt aside, the Shi brothers elicit introspection, with a rich history that extends throughout their lineage. Despite Ryuki clocking everyone's gay radar, he is madly in love with Shode, though she, for the most part, doesn't feel the same way. But his traumatic childhood derailed the shiny royalty image the lord cultivated, which manifests in his phobia of children and his perceived incompetence in leading a nation. Seiden was a former prince who was pushed by his relatives to become the next emperor. With their plan backfiring, Seiden was exiled and forced to join a group of bandits. Befriending a fellow bandit member, the two destroyed the band from within, and Seiden was taken under Shode's family's wing when he was found in the wilderness. As the story progresses, Shode becomes an imperial official, engaging with citizens in neighboring provinces and handling issues that arise. The villains she encounters are not one-dimensional or predictable, and in all honesty, they have to be some of the most quirky anime characters to have been on screen at the time. Shifting gears a little bit, I recently watched Oku the Inner Chambers since it came out this summer because my friends told me the manga was amazing. I decided to check it out since it's on Netflix, so it's easily accessible, and I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. It's dark, intimate, and vulnerable. The suspense is so thick you could cut it with a knife, showing the hardships both men and women experience under patriarchy was extremely enlightening. While that suspense level was not as palpable for me watching Sanoko Monogatari, the tone similarly remained. The aspect that left an extremely sweet taste in my mouth was how it approached social issues, not only by acknowledging that systemic barriers and oppression exist, but by critiquing the harm that they cause on individuals and society as a whole. However, due to low viewer retention, many of these series never gained mainstream popularity apart from a few exceptions. I mean, Sanoko Monog didn't even get season 2 dubbed, despite the voice actors being really good and having a relatively popular viewership while it was airing. I guess that's a sad part of these series. They essentially serve as promotion for their manga, but at what creative cost? Maybe it's the 6th episode of Oku with that prolonged kissing scene, which was supposed to be heartbreaking and tearing your insides to shreds, but ended up coming across as silly. Anyways, to conclude this, historical shoujo does deserve credit for allowing us approachable access to socio-political topics. Where else will we find a medium that engages with these subjects while simultaneously entertaining the heck out of us? Hopefully, with series like Oku and My Happy Marriage, this genre will continue to thrive and adapt more titles to quench our insatiable thirst.